What would motivate an upper-class young woman to leave her home and family in New York and travel to the Caribbean and South America to work as a geologist? Ten years before women were allowed to vote, Dr. Carlotta Maury was one of the first women to be employed by an oil company as a professional geoscientist. She was also the first female petroleum consultant. Dr. Maury was a freelance petroleum geologist, paleontologist, and stratigrapher who succeeded in ignoring the prevailing prejudice against professional women thanks to her widely acknowledged technical skills, financial freedom, and tenacity. She published widely and was a member of several geological societies, something rarely done by women of her time. Her expertise and determination paved the way for many women in geoscience. Her work took her to Trinidad during the period of first commercial oil production. Carlotta Joaquina Maury was born on the 6th of January 1874. She was the third surviving and youngest child of Reverend Mitten Maury and his wife Virginia. Carlotta's family contained many distinguished teachers and scientists. Her father's great-great-grandfather, Reverend James Maury, was a teacher of 3 American presidents, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe. Her father's cousin, Commander Matthew Fontaine Maury, was the first director of the United States Naval Observatory, an astronomer and oceanographer known as the Pathfinder of the Seas. Carlotta's maternal grandfather was John William Draper, the famous physicist who conducted groundbreaking research in photochemistry. His work made portrait photography possible. He was also the first person to photograph the moon. Also in the family of academic excellence were Carlotta's uncles, Henry and John Christopher Draper, who were an astronomer and chemist respectively. Carlotta was born on the modest Draper estate overlooking the Hudson River in Hastings-on-Hudson. But due to her father's work, the family moved frequently to different church parishes. They, however, visited the Draper estate often. Taught by her father, an amateur geologist and botanist, Carlotta's first words were the names of the trees on the estate. She took daily walks collecting plants, rocks, and fossils, and quickly developed an appreciation for the natural world around her. This appreciation and knowledge of the natural world also extended to her education. Carlotta and her siblings were taught at home until their early teens. When they did enter public school, the children were proficient in French, German, Latin, as well as basic science, geology, botany, and math. Tragedy struck the family in 1885 when Carlotta was just 11 years old. Her mother, Virginia, who encouraged her love of music and nature, suddenly died. This left a void which Carlotta's father tried to fill. He encouraged her to pursue excellence in her academic and professional life. They had a close relationship which lasted until his death in 1919. After completing high school, Carlotta attended the New Society for Collegiate Instruction of Women. This was the Harvard Annex School, which eventually became Radcliffe College. But after 3 years, Carlotta transferred to Cornell University because the Harvard Annex could not award degrees. At Cornell, Carlotta focused on courses in botany and geology. Like the rest of her family, science was her focus, but she was the first in her family to become interested in geology and paleontology. This interest led her to enter the PhD program, working under Professor Gilbert Harris. Professor Harris was particularly sympathetic towards the interests of women in geology. He not only enrolled them in field camp before this was an accepted practice, but also supervised their graduate studies when other faculty would not do so. Carlotta majored in the study of shells while minoring in paleontology and the history of philosophy. Her excellent work under Professor Harris earned her the Schuyler Fellowship in Geology, which allowed her to conduct studies at Columbia University and the Sorbonne University in Paris. This stay in Europe permitted her to gain further experience in fieldwork. She received her PhD from Cornell in 1902 with a thesis published as The Comparison of the Oligocene of Western Europe and the Southern United States. Despite her academic achievements, on returning to the US from Europe, Dr. Maury found it difficult to find full-time employment and taught briefly at several universities. Women in the society of the 1900s were expected to be homemakers, and she had a difficult time gaining acceptance into academia. Dr. Maury tried to break through this discrimination, and she gained respect for her intellect, hard work, and enduring personality. From 1904 to 1909, Dr. Maury began a varied career as assistant paleontologist at various universities, including Columbia and Cornell. After a few years of teaching, Dr. Maury joined a team led by Professor Harris, her Cornell advisor, where she became the assistant geologist with the Louisiana Geological Survey, helping to prepare a report on the occurrences of rock salt in the state. By microscopic examination of samples from wells in two important Louisiana fields, Dr. Maury assembled data for a structure map of the region. Based on her paleontological findings, the final substructure analysis led to great economic finds, and the map has needed only minor corrections ever since. Her true passion, however, was fieldwork and traveling on collecting expeditions to other countries. This love led Dr. Maury to be recruited by the chief geologist of Trinidad's General Asphalt Company, Dr. Arthur Clifford Veatch. Her assignment was paleontologist for a year-long geological expedition to Venezuela and Trinidad. Coming out of this assignment, the Royal Dutch Shell Petroleum Company recognized Dr. Maury's unique expertise in South American fossils and offered her a job as geology consultant. She was the first female paleontologist to find work at an oil company. In 1906, a geologist, Arthur B.B. Thompson, found oil at Guayguayari, Guapo, and Point Fortune, so the surrounding land and offshore areas were of great interest to the oil companies. Dr. Maury explored the island conducting fieldwork in central, southern, and eastern areas, documenting the fossils and lithologies found at various localities. Dr. Maury's contribution to the paleontology of Trinidad was one of the pieces of work which led to the discovery of large oil fields in the southwestern part of the Gulf of Paria. Her detailed scientific analysis of the fossilized flora and fauna of Trinidad was also published in other North American scientific journals. With advancing technologies in transportation, Dr. Maury was able to visit other areas in Central and South America. She financed her own expeditions and conducted independent research, defying the conventional wisdom concerning women and fieldwork. She also continued to consult for Royal Dutch Shell's Venezuela division, for whom she produced a number of proprietary technical reports of Trinidad. Many of these reports provided foundation material for Kuglar's treatise on the geology of Trinidad and Tobago. After working in Trinidad, Dr. Maury became the chief geological consultant for the Brazilian government. She was very fond of Brazil, as her grandmother was Brazilian, and personally financed reports and monographs for the Geological and Mineralogical Survey of that country, employing her own draftsmen and specialists. In her later life, when not doing research or writing for academic journals, Dr. Maury traveled widely. These travels took her throughout South America and the Caribbean, South and Central Africa, the Middle East and Asia, and also Europe. Dr. Maury delighted in the exotic, from the tropical forests of Trinidad to the grey sandstone of South Africa's Drakensberg Mountains. As early as 1930, Dr. Maury was stricken with cancer but continued to publish. She died in 1938 at her home in Yonkers, New York. Her short life produced a volume of work. Her publication list included 43 scientific works and an additional 16 confidential reports for the Dutch Shell Petroleum Company. Dr. Maury was Fellow of the Geological Society of America, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the American Geographical Society, and corresponding member to the Philadelphia Academy of Science, the American Museum of Natural History, and the Brazilian Academy of Sciences. Dr. Carlotta Juanita Maury. Pioneering petroleum geoscientist.